40 Smith & Wesson currently carries the label of a dying caliber. Hello everyone and welcome back to AmmoMart.com. Today we're going to do a bit of a deep dive on the 40 caliber Smith & Wesson cartridge. For those of you that might not be aware, the 40 caliber has only been around for around 35 years or so, but we'll get back to why it got here in a second. John Moses Browning actually envisioned a 10mm cartridge, or 9.8, clear back into the 1920s. But upon his death, the project kind of laid around on a desk and nothing ever really happened with it. So then fast forward to the 70s when a guy named Colonel Jeff Cooper was really into hard-hitting handguns and stopping what you're aiming at on the first throw. He, along with another fellow, was developing the 10mm cartridge. That cartridge was adopted by the FBI after a bank robbery failed shootout in Miami in 1986. That's an often studied and cited shootout where the FBI agents, two of them, lost their lives after shooting two suspects 6 and 12 times respectively. And depending on the account you read, one of those was actually shot in the heart on the first shot and still managed to live long enough to wound and ultimately kill the FBI agent. During that period of time, the FBI was looking for a caliber that had enough power or as much power as the .38 Special that they had become to rely on for decades. Problem was, when they adopted the 10mm cartridge in the Smith Model 1006, their agents didn't shoot it very well. The gun was big, it had a ton of felt recoil, and things kind of went south on the range. So it was a great experiment in experienced hands, but when you put it out into your agents, it didn't go that well. A man in charge of the FBI training unit at the time for firearms was a man named John Hall. John Hall happened to own a Colt Delta Elite. That gun is basically an all-steel 1911 framed handgun. With that weapon, he started using reduced power loads in the cartridge and eventually discovered that a 180 grain projectile with around a 5.5 to 6 grain powder charge gave the shooter the most control married to the most power, sort of a best of both worlds kind of scenario compared to the 10 or what was perceived as the weak 9 at the time. Because they were using reduced power loads, some engineers at Smith & Wesson decided that we could just cut the case. We don't need that length if we're not going to fill it. So the cartridge length went from .992 to .850. They used the 40 or the US standard caliber designation instead of 10mm, which kind of brings us back to the beginning, because when Colonel Cooper was originally developing the 10mm cartridge, some people called it 40 Magnum. Sometimes you saw it referred to as 40 G&A, which stood for Guns and Ammo, the magazine that was helping Colonel Cooper develop the cartridge at the time. So there is a little bit of confusion about how all of this worked. But for clarity's sake, the 40 caliber Smith & Wesson cartridge, its parent case is Colonel Cooper's 10mm with a cut case, and significant difference was the 10mm uses a large pistol primer and the 40 Smith & Wesson uses a small. After the field test went pretty well using the Smith Model 4006 or the 4006, they introduced the cartridge to the world January 17, 1990. But an interesting thing happened, as it often does in the gun business, which is, yeah, we have this model, but your customers can't buy it for several months. In that period of time, an up-and-coming weapon manufacturer by the name of Glock introduced the world to the Model 22, which ultimately became the most popular 40 caliber handgun ever produced and remains so to this day. Later on, Glock shrunk the platform down and you could get it as a concealed carry weapon, which we're going to cover in another video about whether 40 Smith & Wesson actually is a good choice for concealed carry. Before we go forward, I'm sure a lot of our viewers are already aware that 40 Smith & Wesson currently carries the label of a dying caliber, or one no one wants to buy. Part of that reason is because the perception that it has a lot of felt recoil and is a horrible range gun. I couldn't disagree more. One of the problems that people have with 40 Smith & Wesson is they don't think back to what it was designed to do. This gun was designed exclusively in the caliber for law enforcement. They didn't really have a big idea that they were going to be commercially selling this to everybody and their brother. So they had an all steel hammer driven gun that was very heavy, handled recoil well, and they put a premium on stopping power, not the shooter's comfort. Theory was, in well-trained hands, you do have more stopping power than you do in the 9mm platform, all of which is completely true. The problem with 40 Smith is it doesn't have a lot of adaptability, has way less adaptability than 9mm. However, if you want to shoot a gun with, in my opinion, the best of both stopping power worlds between 9mm and the other big brother, so to speak, which is the 45 ACP, this is absolutely the best of both worlds. Speed and weight, controllability in trained hands, and in my opinion, it's absolutely a valid argument to say that 40 Smith & Wesson is the ultimate defensive handgun caliber. Lots of people will disagree with that notion because they claim in the 30-some years that the 40 Smith has been out that 9mm bullet technology has advanced so far, why would you ever need anything else? Well, I have a problem with that kind of argument too, because 40 Smith & Wesson bullet technology has also evolved. In fact, you can get bullets for the 40 Smith & Wesson that have reduced recoil and more stopping power than the 9mm cartridge. This caliber has a very, very clear, and in my opinion, proud past, but an uncertain future, oftentimes related to market trends, not the actual specific internal traits of the cartridge. Meaning this, everybody knows the concealed carry market is driving the firearms new sale car. Everybody wants capacity and everybody wants a 9mm. So yeah, I get it. If that's your shopping list, so to speak, 9mm is a great choice. However, if you want one time and down, in my humble, 40 Smith & Wesson will always have a future. And I also think we're one police incident away from the world once again redeciding that the 40 Smith & Wesson is in fact superior to the 9mm cartridge. Thanks for watching this video. Don't be afraid to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.